Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you today? May you always be healthy and full of blessings. Before starting, let's start by reciting a prayer. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. May this prayer be a way for us to get intercession from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the Day of Judgment. Ameen. Hello Muslim friends, meet again with the Islamic Lantern channel. Before we continue, it would be nice if we support this channel by clicking the subscribe, like, comment, and share buttons. Come on, let's listen to the story. In the land known for freedom, where different beliefs coexist, a light from the east shines ever brighter. In California, the land of innovation, entertainment, and dreams, Islam is growing faster than ever imagined. Thousands of souls searching for peace have found it in Islam. Islam is not new to California. Since the early 20th century, immigrants from Lebanon, Pakistan, and North Africa built small communities, established the first mosques, and planted roots that have now grown into a forest of faith. The growth of Islam in California is not only due to migration, but also a search for meaning. Many locals discovered the beauty of Islam through neighbors, friends, and even documentaries on social media. In the past decade, a new wave of converts has swept across California. From Venice Beach to Silicon Valley, thousands have embraced Islam, not out of coercion, but through personal discovery. I grew up in a Catholic family, but when I read the Quran, I felt as if God was speaking directly to me, without intermediaries. I had everything: money, fame, parties, but I was empty. Then I heard the call to prayer for the first time in Santa Ana. I cried without knowing why major mosques in Los Angeles, the Islamic Center of Irvine, and the Islamic Society of San Francisco have become hubs of community life. Children's study circles, iftar gatherings, and social aid for the homeless. Today, in every major city in California, there stand vibrant and active mosques and Islamic centers. Islam is growing not only in numbers, but in contribution. We don't just worship here. We feed the hungry, help disaster victims, and become part of the greater community. Muslim volunteers assist wildfire victims across California, sharing meals on the streets of Los Angeles. Behind the gates of California's prisons, in the quiet of spiritual rehabilitation, groups of inmates stand shoulder to shoulder in prayer. One of the most striking phenomena is happening behind prison walls. Thousands of prisoners have found Islam in the darkest of places and emerged with light in their hearts. Greater than "we've seen real change," they become disciplined, peaceful, and respectful after embracing Islam. Greater than "I used to believe in nothing, but the Quran gave me direction. I'm not the same man I was." An old church building in Fresno now serves as a mosque. Congregational prayers fill the hall once again. In several small towns, old churches that lost their congregations have come alive again. Not with hymns, but with the recitation of the Quran. One church in Fresno was even purchased and transformed into a mosque by a young Muslim born in America. We're not destroying places of worship. We're continuing the spiritual mission, bringing people closer to God. Children play in mosque courtyards as the call to prayer echoes through California's evening sky. They come from many walks of life, but all move toward the same direction, to the one God. Islam in California is not just a statistic. It is a wave of awakening, a spiritual revival in the midst of a noisy modern world. Greater than "I feel like Islam didn't change me into someone else. It brought me back to who I truly am." In the land of the setting sun, the light is rising. And from California, the message of Islam spreads, piercing hearts, crossing borders, guiding souls toward eternal light. Under the California sun, where the Pacific meets the desert and cities rise from the dust, lies the most diverse state in America, California. A place where innovation, culture, and belief coexist in constant motion. Here, faith is not a private affair, but a living dialogue shaped by migration, identity, and struggle. Amid its contrasts, wealth and homelessness, progress and prejudice, Islam has quietly taken root. More than 1 million Muslims now call this state home, forming the largest Muslim population in the American West. They are teachers, doctors, engineers, and civic leaders, woven into California's social and cultural fabric. Their presence reflects not only demographic growth, but also a broader transformation in how faith lives within modern pluralism. The roots of Islam in California reach back more than a century to the early 1900s, when a handful of Arab, South Asian, and African-American migrants first arrived on the western frontier of the United States. Drawn by the promise of work and stability, many of them settled in the fertile lands of Fresno and Sacramento, regions that offered both agricultural opportunity and social freedom. These early Muslims often lived modestly, working long hours in the fields. Yet they carried with them a faith that quietly endured. Without established mosques or institutions, they gathered in homes and community halls to pray, read the Quran, and maintain a connection to the world they had left behind. By the mid-20th century, as migration increased and small Muslim communities began to take shape, California became home to some of the earliest symbols of Islamic presence in the American West. The Los Angeles Islamic Center, founded in 1952, marked a historic milestone. It was the first major mosque on the West Coast, serving a congregation of diplomats, students, and immigrants from across the Muslim world. For many, it represented not just a place of worship, but also a cultural and intellectual hub, a safe space where faith could flourish amid a largely secular environment. The following decades witnessed further growth and organization. In 1976, the Islamic Society of Orange County was established, expanding the presence of Islam beyond Los Angeles. Its founders envisioned a community that embraced both religious devotion and civic engagement, a balance that would become a defining feature of California's Muslim identity. These institutions signaled that Islam was no longer a transient presence in California, but a permanent part of its spiritual landscape. Parallel to these developments, the Nation of Islam played a profound role in shaping the social and spiritual identity of African American communities in Los Angeles and Oakland. Emerging during an era of racial segregation and economic inequality, its message of self-respect, discipline, and empowerment offered a new path for thousands of African Americans searching for dignity and purpose. While the movement's theology evolved over time, its legacy helped introduce Islam into mainstream American awareness, especially among Black Californians, whose faith blended spirituality with the pursuit of justice. A turning point came in 1965 with the passage of the Immigration and Nationality Act. The law abolished restrictive quotas that had long limited non-European migration, opening the doors to a new wave of Muslim immigrants from Iran, Palestine, Pakistan, and Somalia. This influx transformed the demographic and cultural landscape of California. Mosques multiplied, cultural centers emerged, and new generations of Muslim students entered universities across the state, from UCLA and UC Berkeley to Stanford and beyond. By the late 20th century, Islam in California had evolved from a scattered immigrant faith into a complex, multi-ethnic community. Its members spoke dozens of languages, represented every social class, and participated actively in public life. Yet, despite their diversity, they shared a common experience: the effort to preserve faith in a rapidly changing society. By 2025, California has become home to one of the largest Muslim populations in the Western world. It's estimated that more than 1 million Muslims now live across the Golden State, representing nearly a quarter of all Muslims in the United States. What began as scattered immigrant communities in the early 20th century has evolved into a dynamic, deeply rooted presence that shapes California's culture, economy, and politics. Los Angeles County stands as the beating heart of this transformation. Here, Islam is not confined to mosques. It resonates in art, media, and social activism. The Islamic Center of Southern California, ICSC, founded in the 1950s, remains a cornerstone of faith and intellectual dialogue. Meanwhile, organizations like SILA and the Muslim Public Affairs Council have turned Los Angeles into a center of policy advocacy and interfaith engagement, ensuring that Muslim voices are heard in the state's political and cultural landscape. Moving north, the Bay Area, including cities like Fremont, Santa Clara, and San Jose, represents the intellectual and technological frontier of American Islam. Here, many Muslims work in Silicon Valley, leading startups, teaching at universities, and contributing to AI and renewable energy innovation. Fremont, sometimes called Little Kabul, is home to one of the largest Afghan-American communities in the country, blending tradition with cutting-edge modernity. In this region, faith often coexists naturally with progress, where Friday prayers are followed by product launches, and Quranic principles inform ethical business practices. Further inland, Sacramento, the state capital, plays a different but equally crucial role. It is here that advocacy meets governance. Each year, Muslims from across California gather for Muslim Day at the Capitol, an event that symbolizes both civic engagement and belonging. Organizations work closely with lawmakers to address issues like civil rights, education, and public safety. In a city defined by politics, California's Muslims have become not just participants, but stakeholders in shaping the future of the state. In the heart of the Central Valley, especially in Fresno and surrounding agricultural towns, Islam takes on a more rural and familial face. These communities are rooted in the hard work of immigrant families from South Asia, the Middle East, and East Africa, many of whom came to work the land and later built mosques, schools, and social centers. The Muslim presence here reflects the quiet endurance of faith, far from the spotlight, yet deeply connected to the soil and seasons that sustain California's farms. Meanwhile, San Diego and the Inland Empire have seen remarkable growth in recent years, particularly after the pandemic. As housing costs soared in coastal cities, many Muslim families moved inland, establishing new mosques, halal businesses, and schools. Today, the Inland Empire is one of the fastest-growing Muslim regions in the entire state, blending affordability with community life and new opportunities. Altogether, California now hosts more than 250 mosques and Islamic centers, each serving as a hub for faith, family, and civic life. From the deserts of Coachella to the high-tech campuses of Palo Alto, from coastal Los Angeles to the vineyards of Fresno, Islam in California is no longer a hidden story. It's a living, visible part of the state's identity, multicultural, multi-ethnic, and unmistakably American. In 2025, California has become the intellectual heart of progressive Islamic thought in the Western world. Here, education is not only about learning the faith, it's about rethinking how Islam can guide humanity in an age of technology, inequality, and climate change. Across campuses, lecture halls, and online forums, Muslim scholars and students are shaping a new chapter in the relationship between faith and reason. At the forefront stands Zaytuna College in Berkeley, the first fully accredited Muslim liberal arts college in the United States. Founded by scholars like Hamza Yusuf, Zaid Shakir, and Hatem Bazian, Zaytuna represents a bridge between classical Islamic scholarship and modern Western academia. Its curriculum combines Quranic studies with philosophy, logic, and literature, nurturing graduates who think critically, speak across traditions, and embody the ethics of both intellect and spirituality. By 2025, Zaytuna has expanded to include graduate programs in Islamic law, ethics, and education, solidifying its reputation as a pioneering institution, not just for American Muslims, but for students of all faiths seeking a deeper moral framework for modern life. Down south in Los Angeles, the Bayan Islamic Graduate School continues to redefine what Islamic leadership means in the 21st century. Bayan focuses on theology, interfaith dialogue, and community leadership, preparing imams, chaplains, and educators who are fluent in both tradition and contemporary realities. Its classrooms bring together Muslims, Christians, and Jews in conversations about faith, justice, and coexistence. In a city known for its diversity, Bayan's mission is simple yet profound: to create leaders who heal divisions rather than deepen them. Meanwhile, some of California's leading universities, UC Berkeley, UCLA, and Stanford, have become global centers for Islamic studies and interreligious research. Their programs attract scholars, journalists, and students from all backgrounds, exploring topics from Islamic philosophy and Sufism to modern ethics and politics. At UC Berkeley, Muslim intellectuals have led research on environmental justice through an Islamic lens. At UCLA, professors examine how Islamic art and architecture shape collective memory. And at Stanford, courses on Quranic interpretation and neuroscience are inspiring new ways to think about consciousness, faith, and the human mind. Beyond classrooms, California's Muslim intellectuals are influencing debates on ethics, social justice, and environmental sustainability. They write books, lead think tanks, and collaborate with NGOs on issues like climate change, refugee rights, and digital privacy, arguing that Islam's moral principles can help create a more compassionate and balanced world. In this sense, California's Islamic education is not limited to theology. It's a living conversation between spirituality and science, between revelation and reason. In the heart of the world's technological revolution, Silicon Valley, faith and innovation meet in unexpected harmony. Here among the campuses of Google, Apple, and Tesla, a quiet but powerful movement is taking shape. The rise of Muslim professionals who bring their moral and spiritual values into the digital frontier. By 2025, thousands of Muslim engineers, data scientists, and entrepreneurs have become essential contributors to California's tech ecosystem. They design algorithms that connect billions of people, build electric vehicles that reshape mobility, and develop artificial intelligence that transforms human interaction. Yet behind their technical expertise lies something deeper, an ethical framework rooted in Islamic principles: honesty, justice, humility, and responsibility. In a world often driven by speed and profit, these values offer balance. Muslim innovators in Silicon Valley are part of a growing movement known as ethical tech. It's a philosophy that asks difficult but necessary questions. How can we design technology that serves humanity rather than controls it? How can artificial intelligence respect privacy and fairness? And what does it mean to build systems that reflect moral accountability, not just efficiency? Out of this concern emerged the Muslim Tech Collaborative, founded in 2023. This global network connects Muslim technologists, investors, and educators, from San Francisco to Dubai, from Jakarta to London. Their mission: to ensure that the future of AI, fintech, and digital education reflects ethical responsibility, guided by both reason and faith. They host workshops on algorithmic bias, organize mentorships for young Muslim coders, and support startups that integrate Islamic finance principles into modern innovation. In companies like Google and Apple, Muslim employee groups have also begun leading conversations about diversity, inclusion, and moral design. Their initiatives go beyond representation. They focus on how faith-based ethics can contribute to sustainable innovation. Some advocate for AI models that are transparent and fair. Others work on technology to fight misinformation, protect user dignity, and preserve human agency in the age of automation. This intersection between faith and innovation marks a new chapter in the story of Islam in America. In Silicon Valley, Islam is not an outsider's identity. It is a source of ethical imagination, a reminder that progress without principle can never be true progress. As one engineer put it, we build the future with code, but we must guide it with conscience. Across California's leading universities, UC Berkeley, UCLA, Stanford, and UC San Diego, a new generation of Muslim students is redefining what it means to be both faithful and modern. They are scholars, activists, and global citizens, children of immigrants and native-born Americans who carry a dual consciousness, deeply rooted in Islam, yet fully engaged in the complexities of American life. In classrooms, debates, and public forums, they represent a confident voice of identity, one that refuses to be confined by stereotypes or silence. At UC Berkeley, Muslim students have become central to discussions about ethics, social justice, and the future of multicultural democracy. At UCLA and Stanford, they are leading research on sustainability, media, and interfaith cooperation. And at UC San Diego, Muslim student associations, MSAs, are creating spaces of dialogue and solidarity, from charity drives to open iftar gatherings that welcome students of all backgrounds. These young Muslims no longer see faith as a private matter alone. They live it as an act of public engagement. Through debates about racial equality, gender justice, and global peace, they transform Islamic principles into practical ethics for the modern world. Yet their journey is not without challenges. The Israel-Gaza conflict of 2023 to 2024 left a deep mark on American campuses, and California was no exception. Many Muslim and Arab students faced hostility, misrepresentation, and heightened surveillance. But out of this adversity came something profound, a stronger sense of political awareness and moral responsibility. Students began organizing peace vigils, humanitarian fundraisers, and public discussions that emphasized empathy over division, humanity over ideology. Through the Muslim student associations, they built bridges with Jewish, Christian, and secular student groups, showing that dialogue, not distance, is the foundation of coexistence. For many, these experiences have turned universities into laboratories of pluralism, where Islam interacts not just with theology, but with philosophy, technology, and global activism. The new generation of California's Muslims is not asking for acceptance. They are defining belonging on their own terms. They represent a faith that is curious, critical, and compassionate. A faith that stands for justice without losing humility, that seeks knowledge without losing its soul. In 2025, California, the state often celebrated as the epicenter of diversity and progress, faces an uncomfortable paradox. According to the KIR California Civil Rights Report 2025, more than 1,000 incidents of anti-Muslim bias were recorded across the state, the highest number in the entire United States. These were not isolated acts. They ranged from verbal harassment on public transit to online hate campaigns to physical attacks and vandalism against mosques. One of the most visible cases occurred in Altadena, Los Angeles County, where the local mosque was defaced with hateful graffiti in early 2024. For the community, the damage was not only physical, it was emotional, reopening old wounds that many thought had begun to heal. Muslim families in cities like San Diego, Sacramento, and the Bay Area have reported being subjected to heightened scrutiny in schools, workplaces, and even during travel. Many describe the experience as living under a quiet but constant pressure, being both visible and invisible at the same time. Visible because of faith, invisible because of how easily their stories are dismissed or misunderstood. On university campuses, once seen as sanctuaries of free expression, tensions have escalated since the Israel-Gaza conflict of 2023 to 2024. Muslim students report being doxxed, threatened, or unfairly profiled during protests and debates. At UCLA and UC Berkeley, some students faced intimidation simply for expressing humanitarian solidarity or calling for peace. The emotional toll has been immense, with rising reports of anxiety, burnout, and feelings of isolation within the Muslim student population. This climate reveals the deeper contradiction within California's multicultural identity. Here lies a state that promotes tolerance and coexistence, yet still struggles with the remnants of fear, prejudice, and misinformation. For many Muslims, the issue is not only about individual acts of hate, but also about systemic indifference, policies and narratives that continue to treat Islam as a foreign element, rather than an integral part of American life. And yet, amid this adversity, resilience has become a defining trait of California's Muslims. Mosques and civic organizations, such as the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, and the California Muslim Civic Network, have intensified their efforts in advocacy, education, and legal defense. Interfaith partners have also stepped forward. Churches, synagogues, and human rights groups stand in solidarity with Muslim communities, protecting freedom of belief and expression. In California, the response to hatred has never been silence, but service. Across the state, Muslim communities have chosen compassion as their form of resistance. When mosques were defaced, or when headlines turned hostile, the answer came not through anger, but through action. During the month of Ramadan, hundreds of volunteers, from Los Angeles to San Jose, organized community food drives, serving thousands of meals to the homeless, regardless of religion or background. In times of disaster, wildfires in the north, floods in the south, Islamic centers have opened their doors as shelters and aid stations, partnering with local authorities to deliver food, blankets, and emergency supplies. For California's Muslims, faith is not confined to prayer halls. It lives in public service. At the Islamic Center of Southern California, one of the state's oldest and most inclusive mosques, interfaith cooperation is part of daily life. Here, imams, priests, and rabbis regularly share the same platform, discussing ethics, justice, and the moral challenges of modern America. Meanwhile, at the Muslim Community Association in Santa Clara, located in the heart of Silicon Valley, community programs focus on education, environmental stewardship, and youth mentorship, turning faith into a practical force for good. In the Bay Area, collaborative projects between Muslim, Christian, and Jewish congregations have given rise to what some call the California model of interfaith solidarity. It's a model built not on ideology, but on empathy, where believers come together not to debate theology, but to serve humanity. Serve humanity. These initiatives have helped reshape public perception, showing that Islam in California is not a faith of separation, but one of participation. For many Muslims, this is what resilience means: the ability to turn adversity into contribution and prejudice into purpose. It's an understanding that real strength is not measured by how loudly one responds to hate, but by how consistently one upholds compassion. In the political landscape of California, Muslim voices are no longer on the margins. They are part of the conversation. From local councils to state assemblies, an increasing number of Muslim public officials are shaping policy, community programs, and the moral dialogue of the state. By 2025, California is home to dozens of Muslim elected leaders, city council members, mayors, and school board representatives, who bring a unique moral and cultural perspective to governance. Their message is clear: Islam and civic responsibility are not opposing forces, but complementary paths toward justice and equality. Organizations such as the California Muslim Civic Network, founded in 2025, are now training and mentoring a new generation of Muslim political leaders. Their mission goes beyond elections. It's about civic literacy, social advocacy, and ensuring that Muslim perspectives are represented in the democratic process. Through town halls, policy workshops, and voter engagement campaigns, they strengthen civic action and empower communities to participate in shaping their future. At the same time, a new wave of Muslim journalists, filmmakers, and digital creators is reshaping how Islam is portrayed in the public sphere. They tell stories not of fear, but of humanity. Stories of education, art, and resilience that connect rather than divide. On television and online, young Muslim Californians are challenging stereotypes with confidence and nuance, representing Islam through empathy, intellect, and creativity. This growing presence in politics, media, and public service marks a quiet revolution. It is the transformation of Islam in America from a misunderstood minority to a visible, contributing force within society. In California, faith does not live in isolation. It breathes through art, dialogue, and shared experience. Here, Islam is not an outsider's presence, but a contributor to the state's creative and cultural identity. In 2024, the Getty Museum in Los Angeles hosted Faith and Form, a landmark exhibition exploring the intersections of spirituality and modern design. Among its highlights were works of contemporary Islamic architecture, geometric light patterns, calligraphic structures, and sustainable mosques, symbols of how Islamic aesthetics continue to inspire global art and architecture. The exhibition drew visitors from every faith, offering a simple message: beauty can be a form of worship, and art can unite where doctrine divides. Across the state, Muslim artists, filmmakers, and musicians are engaging in interfaith collaborations that transcend traditional boundaries. Through creativity and dialogue, they are proving that faith and art, devotion and design can coexist, not as opposites, but as partners in the shared pursuit of understanding and unity. Joint film projects between Muslim, Christian, and Jewish creators explore universal themes, spirituality, justice, and the search for meaning in a secular age. Through cinema and storytelling, these artists are building bridges where debates once built walls. The cultural influence of California's Muslims extends far beyond galleries and studios. It can be felt in the city streets, in the aroma of Middle Eastern food trucks in Los Angeles, in the modest fashion boutiques of the Bay Area, and in the rhythms of fusion music that blend Arabic ode with California jazz. In each expression, Islam becomes more than a religion. It becomes part of the living fabric of modern American culture. What makes this coexistence remarkable is not its novelty, but its normality. In California, faith and diversity no longer stand in opposition. They coexist, interact, and evolve together. Here, Islam is not a silent minority, but an active heartbeat within the cultural life of the West. In the heart of the American West, California stands not only as a land of innovation and diversity, but as a living laboratory of faith. Here, Islam breathes in a space where freedom of thought and cultural expression are celebrated. It's a version of Islam that is not defensive, not confined by fear, but constantly engaging with people, with ideas, and with the future itself. When we look at the Muslim communities in California, from Los Angeles to Silicon Valley, from Fresno to Sacramento, we don't just see survival, we see evolution. We see young Muslims who build bridges instead of walls, who join discussions instead of withdrawing, who embody faith through art, technology, and social work. California's Islam teaches the Muslim world a powerful lesson, that faith thrives not by isolation, but by participation, that true strength lies not in resisting change, but in shaping it. In the classrooms of Stanford, in the interfaith halls of Los Angeles, in the art galleries of San Francisco, Islam is not a hidden identity, but a visible force of creativity and compassion. This is the paradox that defines the Golden State, a place where faith meets freedom and tradition meets progress, where Muslims can be both deeply spiritual and deeply modern without contradiction. So what does California teach the Muslim world? That Islam can live, breathe, and flourish in pluralism. That it can speak the language of science, justice, and art without losing its soul. That in every act of kindness, every dialogue, and every moment of reflection, Islam renews itself. In California, Islam is not just surviving, it's evolving, becoming more reflective, more compassionate, and more human. Showing the world that faith, when rooted in sincerity and openness, can truly illuminate even the most complex societies. This is the end of our video. If you enjoy Islamic content like this, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.